To mark what would have been the People's Princess's 65th birthday, we're looking back at Diana's life through the photographs that defined her story and the lives of her sons, William and Harry. Joining me are people who knew Diana, photographed her, helped tell her story and continue to share her legacy with the world. Together we'll explore the moments behind the images, from the fairy tale wedding, motherhood and the global fame, to the challenges she faced and the legacy she left behind. Nearly 30 years after her death, Diana's influence still shapes the modern monarchy. This is Diana at 65, her legacy. I'm Matt Wilkinson, Royal Editor at The Sun, and joining me for this trip down memory lane are Ingrid Stewart, Arthur Edwards and Bronte Coy. Welcome to all three of you. Our first photograph, now we're very lucky because this photograph was actually taken by one of our guests, and I think that's going to be a common theme throughout today, but it was taken by Arthur Edwards of The Sun. But Ingrid, this photo was taken of Diana in September 1980. Who was Diana? This was before the Diana that we knew, before the Princess Diana, before the wedding. Who was she in September 1980?
Well, she was Lady Diana Spencer, and she lived in a flat in Coleherne Court with a group of girls and worked in London. But she was from a very smart family. Her grandfather was an earl. Her sort of credentials were ideal for her future, which of course we didn't know, but hopefully she might have had an inkling at this period.
Well, Arthur, you took this photo. Did you know at this period, I mean, at this time when you saw Diana here, what were you doing when you found Diana to take this photo?
Well, I knew that this was the girlfriend because I'd already photographed her at a polo match in July. Then I went up to Balmoral and photographed her on the riverbank with Prince Charles fishing. So this is it, and this was a girl we kept in secret. He arrived at the polo secretly and left secretly with her. So I knew that first time ever, a girlfriend, this one was serious. And so I didn't follow her to the nursery. I went to about 3 nurseries till I found this one. I knocked on the door. Is Lady Diana Spencer work here? She said, yes. I said, would you ask her if she'll come and do a photograph for me? She said she will, but she wants to bring 2 of the children. I said, okay, and I took her in the park next door. In the meantime, lots of photographers who'd followed her from her home in Coleherne Court, when they saw me take the picture, jumped out the car and rushed across the road as well. But I fixed that picture and I did it. And I later went back in the afternoon with Harry Arnold, a reporter, and she came out and spoke to us. And I remember Harry asked her, said, could you talk about Prince Charles? And she said, no, I can't talk about it. And then Harry said, but did you tell your mother? She said, oh yes. And that was all we needed to know. And
was
of
she
course,
surprised at the fuss at that point? Was she surprised? Because obviously a lot of photographers were suddenly, they realised that this was Diana, she had a relationship with the future king. Was she happy with the fuss? Was she aware of it?
She was fantastic, I promise you. She used to stop and talk to you, and when the way to and from Coleherne Court, she used to go and do her own shopping. She had a funny little car. I remember one day going out there and some French photographers had put some beer barrels around her car so she'd have to move them all, and she started getting upset. I said, don't let them do that. I said, that's what they want you to do, get upset. Just smile through it. And she was easier to get on with. I mean, I remember seeing you there. You was always there. I mean, it was really easy. And then I had no doubt she was the one. And then I remember they went to a ball, and I remember leaving the house all dressed up beautifully. So, you know, it was a nice thing to do.
Well, this was the beginning. This is September 1980. Bronte, me and you, let's be honest, we're a little bit too young to remember Diana in 1980, but lots of people in the world do remember her. She was immediately relatable to people. I mean, you see how friendly she was to Arthur when he first saw her.
Well, something I love about this picture as well is obviously at the time, exactly as you've both said, you know, she was a teenager and this was the beginning of what was going to go on to be an extraordinary life. But looking back now and from our perspective, you know, as I wasn't around when this was all happening, but I know that looking back on her legacy now, it's this image and images like it that are really often brought up when you speak about how Diana's remembered for her public role, because it really encapsulates, you know, her with kids. She had such a natural affinity with kids. It's that look of her, just that shy little face that you would see, you know, when she's looking up at the camera from underneath her eyelashes. But this image comes up so much and it's so iconic.
It's almost like she's thinking, oh, you know, what is coming down the road now? What is my future? Which really should move on to the next picture, because I can't believe I'm saying this, but February 1981, which was just 6 or 7 months later. Now, this was the announcement of their engagement. Just a short time after that picture, Arthur. Here's the photograph of very young-looking Diana and very young-looking Charles.
Yeah, I was on holiday in Ireland with my family when this happened, and I got a call saying this was going to happen the next day. I remember giving the car and the keys to the car to my wife and the kids, and I jumped on a plane. Obviously, I couldn't get a pass for this, but I got a pass for her the next day when she left her house for the last time, and I got a cracking picture out of that. But this is a picture where, Prince Charles was talking about love, and he said, you love, and he said, what does that mean? And everybody's doubted him over that. But I covered them for a couple of years, and I remember going to Australia with them for sort of 5.5 weeks, Australia, New Zealand, and they were very much in love. They were a great couple. So I don't believe all that. I just think.
Ingrid, were they in love at this point? This is the happy engagement moment.
I totally agree with Arthur.
Yeah.
They were in love. It didn't last. It did for Diana, but it didn't for Charles. But they were briefly in love because I've seen the love letters.
Aha.
And they are just wonderful.
Well,
I mean, just really, really charming.
They couldn't keep their hands off each other, I promise you. I mean, it was just that was a great trip, that Australia trip, best they've ever done.
Diana hated this picture because she thought she looked fat. And I think Charles had put his hand round her waist and said, "Ooh, a bit chubby, aren't you?" Which was teasing. But of course, she took it really seriously.
Don't say that to a woman.
And that was the beginning of her problems with bulimia.
Oh, really? So there were tensions, do you think?
There were
even at early
underlying
stage?
tensions there. And she hated her outfit, which she'd gone to Harrods with her mum and bought. And she just didn't like the way she looked.
Well, I say this because, September of 1980 was the first picture we looked at, then February 1981 was the engagement picture. Guys, she was a young bride, a young future wife of Charles. Was she too young?
It's incredible to imagine that she was 19 at that point. I mean, imagining yourself as a 19-year-old, you've got so much life to live and so many things to learn. And you said Charles looked young. He was, but he was significantly older than her and had gone through sort of those formative adult years, which she hadn't done yet. And you can almost see it in all those pictures back then. There's this real wide-eyed innocence to her going into it. And you can only imagine what that was like. It was extraordinary. They had a whirlwind romance. They didn't know each other that well. And all of a sudden, here she is.
Before they got engaged, she went to Australia. I think she was away nearly a month because he told her to go and think about it. This is explain. What this involved. So she gave it a lot of thought and then wanted to go ahead with it. So 19. She was very soon. She was 20, and
I know this show's about photographs, but personally, I want to come back to the love letters at some stage with Ingrid and find out what was really. Can you tell us anything about those love letters?
Well, I think Charles, obviously, it was very good at writing letters. He always has been, always will be. I think Diana was a bit new. I think she got a little bit of help from her friends in wording them exactly right. But she obviously, they both had doubts. We know that. But there were moments of pure happiness, and it's something that Diana had wanted for a long time.
Well, you mentioned earlier, we're saying that she was very young, and we look at these photographs before the marriage, and she was very young. But she wasn't, she wasn't a commoner. She was someone who was brought up very, very well and would know how to kind of act around Charles and act around royals. What did you see? Did you see someone who was prepared and ready to become a royal bride, looking at these pictures?
Oh yeah, I think so. Yeah, I mean, that was an incredible year that year. I remember after that engagement. I mean, the whole world turned up for the wedding. I mean, it was just unbelievable. We were sort of running around trying to find out what the dress looked like, where it was all going to be. Go to St Paul's, check that all out. The choir at St Paul's went on strike because they wanted more money. It was a massive year, and that in July, the world turned up for that wedding. It was an incredible event, and and she looked fantastic.
We'll get on to some, spoiler alert, we do have some royal wedding photographs to look at in a minute. I just want to do one quick one before, and I wonder about the symbolism of this. This is from June 1981. What does this jumper tell you? Because, look, guys, there's a black sheep on there. Is that symbolism? Did Diana use her outfits and her clothes to speak to people, to say words that she couldn't?
I think she did. Don't you, Arthur?
Well, I think, I remember one day she turned up wearing polka dot socks. And she said, "What do you think of my polka dot socks?" I said, "Well, everyone's wearing them since you've done it." And another time she wore it up in culottes, she was a fashion, she was leader of fashion, people copied her. And I mean, she was just, she was always in Harrods.
I mean,
shops.
that sweater sold out almost immediately.
Yeah.
And the little frilly collars, she set the trend for those.
Oh, yeah.
And that happens now with Catherine and Meghan.
Yes, it's the royal effect. Also, this might be widely known, but I only recently discovered she wore this twice. She wore it again a couple of years later. But it actually was a different jumper, and if you look, you can see the sheep. The black sheep is in a different position in the other photo because the owner of the label had to replace it, but they sent her another one. So I was looking at the pictures, and they are. But I do think she was the master of deliberate dressing, and I think this is a wonderful way of sending a little message out to the world.
Just punching forward, do you think Meghan and Catherine, obviously you're married to her 2 children, which we will get onto later, do you think that they used or they copied the way that Diana would use her fashion to communicate?
Well, absolutely. And again, not to do the spoiler alert and jump in too far, but we've even heard Meghan say she felt silenced. And of course, in the royal family, they don't speak out in the way that people outside of that institution can and do. And I think this is a way of having that powerful moment, but in a very subtle way and in a way that they have their own agency. I mean, look at us speaking about this all these decades on, and it's an obvious message.
It's called the black sheep jumper. Was she the black sheep? Was she the outsider?
No.
No way, no, definitely not, no.
I think she liked the fun idea of being different, which of course she exploited later. But at this time, no, the last thing she wanted to be was a black sheep. It was just a bit of fun for her.
She was a lady. I mean, God, she was, Lady Diana Spencer. She wasn't Miss Spencer. She was Lady Diana Spencer. She was somebody, and great bride for the king.
Well, we've been through the courtship, so should we get to the big day, the royal wedding? I'm imagining Arthur and Ingrid. You've got plenty of stories about this, but this is obviously a picture on the balcony of Charles kissing his bride. I'm sure there was a huge crowd there, Arthur, willing this kiss to happen. I
had the choice where to go, and I picked the wrong choice. I chose to go to St Paul's because all that summer we were concerned about the dress, and I thought people want to see the dress. So I went to St Paul's. I got a nice picture with the dress, but of course, no bride, no one had ever kissed on that balcony before.
Is that right?
And this was the first time ever. And this kiss was it was almost a perfunctory kiss. It was so quick. And most of the photographers missed it. A few got it. And we had a photographer from The Sun called Arthur Steele at the time, and he shot a great picture. And so when I got back to the office, thinking I had some really nice stuff, I was told, the page 1 picture was the kiss. And ever since then, every royal wedding or event, I'll go to the palace because that's the picture that everybody wants to see.
But that was the first marriage kiss.
And
first
now everybody
ever.
shouts, kiss.
Yeah. Now, I mean, when Sarah Ferguson married Andrew, I did a TV show, and they said, "What picture you want?" I said, "I want the kiss." And as I was walking to my position on the morning of the wedding, people were saying, "I hope you get the kiss, Arthur. I hope you get the kiss." And they were shouting, literally, "Kiss, kiss, kiss." And Fergie and Andrew were going like this from the balcony because that was the expected picture. But this was the first one. And ever since, other bride and grooms have done the same.
Bronte and Ingrid, I'm coming to you because I imagine every bride might have doubts. I'm just putting this out there. But no, there's obviously lots of stories that Diana, she did have doubts, which are often quite natural. But was she happy about marrying Charles at this point?
Well, she wanted Charles and she wanted to marry him, but she did have doubts before the wedding, as indeed he had massive doubts. But she also tells a story that when she walked down the aisle, she felt like a lamb to the sacrifice. And then she spotted Camilla in the congregation. But these stories differ, and there are a lot of them. So I think, in retrospect, she wouldn't have changed anything.
What was the atmosphere like though, Arthur? Because this kind of united a nation. We hadn't seen a royal wedding this big before, or maybe since.
It was massive. I remember walking from the hotel, I stayed in London hotel, walking to my position in the morning, stepping over people. The pavements were so crowded and crushed, and people were just desperate to see this wedding. And but I remember the picture I got because this dress had the longest train ever of a royal bride, 25 foot long, and I got it coming down the steps. And a great sub-editor on The Sun put this great headline, "The train now standing at St Paul's." It's a brilliant piece of sub-editing. And so I got a good show in the paper, but I never got this picture. And this was the picture everybody talked about, and it was great. And apparently he asked the Queen if he was okay to kiss the bride, and the Queen said yes.
Oh, is that right?
That's true, yeah.
And this was the real peak of Diana mania. This was where it really kicked off, and that photo so perfectly sums it up.
Bronte, let's talk about some more modern weddings. I mean, how does this compare to the Meghan and Harry and William and Catherine?
Well, there's always this incredible joy. I love the way that Britain turns it on when there's a big royal event, and royal weddings are, of course, they're a huge celebration, and it is always a huge thing that's watched all over the world. But I do think Diana and Charles there's been none like it, none to that exact level, because it was the first of its kind that way, and people were watching it again all over the world, and people were, exactly as you've said, were lining the streets for hours and hours and hours in advance. And I think that people love watching the celebration of love. They loved watching Diana's boys get married, of course, because we're talking about William and Catherine's wedding and Harry and Meghan's. But Diana and Charles, the way that they managed to just grip people, it was the Diana mania. People were obsessed with them.
Incredible.
Yes, and it was. So I don't think it will ever be quite the same.
I remember that tour of Australia, that '83 tour of Australia. The crowds. I mean, Opera House. It was like thousands. They couldn't get any more people. They closed Brisbane. They couldn't get any more people.
Yeah.
And she was just incredible, and they just wanted to see her. I mean, it's absolutely unbelievable. Girls dressed like her, they looked like her.
It was the royal fairy tale.
Oh, it was incredible.
Well, this was July 1981, the wedding. Did we love Diana? You know, if we're talking about Diana mania, was she the most loved royal bride? Did we love her more than the more recent royal brides?
I think it's more obsession than love. And everybody, as Arthur was saying, everybody dressed like her, they cut their hair like her. And then she started to find it really scary. And she had quite a meltdown, and the Queen completely understood. But what the Queen had said to Charles and Diana is, "Oh, don't worry, it'll all calm down after the wedding." But it didn't. It got worse. And when Diana was in Australia, she was really wrung out by it. And I think that she's talked about it since, so we know. But I think it was very, very difficult. And neither she or Charles knew what to do, because it was unprecedented.
Now, what follows a wedding? Babies. So just June 1982, the birth of William, now the heir to the throne, grown up to be a very responsible and decent man. But the photograph here is Diana and Charles emerging at the Lindo wing with William in Diana's arms. We're talking about first kisses on the balcony. This was also a first. This was surely, Arthur, this was a sign of them being modern parents.
Well, yeah, I remember we were there weeks before, because waiting for it to turn up, and the night the baby was born, I remember about 8 of us went to an Indian restaurant. It was 8 o'clock at night. I remember Harry Arnold, the reporter, saying, "I'll just check with the palace before we eat," and he rang and he come back and said, "What? Ring it half? Okay, fine." Half an hour, we just left the restaurant and went round there, and Charles came out, said he was excited about the baby, and then the next day, a lot of people did. I mean, no mother after the baby come out the next day, and a lot of people didn't bother. They were expecting Prince Charles to go and play in a polo match, and some people went to the polo match. But I did, and I stayed there, and they came out, and it was a lovely scene. They just posed for a little while for us, and they changed the baby. I think Charles had the baby, and then he passed to Diana, and it was really happy. So I mean,
there were no baby seats or anything to worry about in those days.
I just got in the car. She held the baby in the back.
She held the baby in the back of the car.
Yeah.
But apparently, do you remember Jane Fincher? The photographer.
Jane, yeah.
She told me that they went round the block and Diana burst into tears.
Yeah.
She found it, she looks very happy, but it was difficult. And we'd never heard of a mother coming out of a hospital so quickly.
It was so quickly, yeah. I mean, it was very, very quick, and nobody expected it, but it happened, And then when William, first child was born, George, I remember Prince Charles coming out after visiting. He said, "Oh, it won't be long before they'll be out." And then she came out very quickly as well. So she started a trend.
Was she finding this demand from the public to see them and to be on display? Was she finding that difficult then, Ingrid?
Catherine or Diana?
Diana.
Yes, she did. She did find it difficult, but she never let the public know she was finding it difficult. She found it difficult. She was upset that Charles went off to his polo match after he'd taken them home from the hospital, and her troubles started, well, they continued. But she never let anyone know. There was just one occasion when she was meant to go to the Festival of Remembrance at the Albert Hall that she arrived after the Queen, and then we started asking a lot of questions. But nobody knew that the marriage was having these problems at that time.
I mean, she invited us, a few of us, down to Kensington Palace to photograph William when he was first walking, and you know, they were great pictures. And then about another 8-9 months later, going again when he was talking, and they were, you know, there was really happy family pictures. So, you know,
it must be strange to put your family. You know, they're always going to be photographed. They're the royal family. They kind of have to be out there. You know, people demand to see them. But William, as you pointed out, he did appear with George at the Lindo Wing. Diana and Charles began all this. But Bronte, Meghan chose not to. After hearing what Ingrid said, I'm beginning to think maybe, you know, Meghan was not justified, but, you know, she had her reasons.
It's such a difficult thing, and also having had a child myself, I can't even fathom getting up in front of the world the next day. So it's funny because Harry and William have just seemingly interpreted their parents' experience in such different ways. It's William and Catherine obviously have the understanding that, you know, as the fact that they will be king and queen one day, there is that public demand, and if they are able to provide that look at their children to the world in a way that they're comfortable with in this controlled amount, that's one thing, and that way they are largely left alone. Outside of that, with Harry, he just sort of went, absolutely not. I don't want this for my family. And so instead, we had that odd situation on the day when Meghan gave birth we found out later at the Portland in London. You know, that she had actually given birth before anything was even said, and so there was this confusing series of statements put out. And then it was a couple of days later we had this photo call, and it was very different than previous royal births, and it is clearly just the sign of how much Harry wanted to have a departure from what had come before them.
And we touched on this earlier about how, you know, how she was a global icon, but by the mid-80s, she was probably the biggest name in the world. Let's be honest. And my next picture is a dance at the White House with John Travolta from November 1985. You guys were around at the time. Tell us how big a global icon was Diana? How big a superstar was she?
Well, I had the rota for this job in Washington, and did the banquet, the presentations after the banquet, and then we were obviously when the dances started, we were asked to leave, and later that evening we found out that the White House photographer Pete D'Souza had taken pictures of them dancing. And we asked Nancy Reagan's office for the picture. She wouldn't give it to us, and we never saw that picture for many years afterwards. But that dress, when I did the Diana dress sale in New York, that dress I think sold for over $200,000, which she sold for charity. I remember Harry Arnold, the reporter, once again with James Whittaker, went down to Travolta's hotel and jumped in the lift with him, and got a great quote the next about she's a great little mover or something like that. So
Travolta it was Nancy Reagan got Travolta to ask Diana to dance, and Diana wanted to dance with Mikhail Baryshnikov, the ballet dancer. She wanted to dance with him, but of course she was delighted. And Travolta said she was like so excited, and he thought it's because she'd watched Grease, and he said for one moment she was not Lady Diana Spencer or what, you know, Princess of Wales. She was the girl in Greece, and he was her, you know, Mr. Nice Guy.
Oh wow!
And he loved that. And Diana also said it was like being in a fairy tale, dancing with Travolta.
Wow.
That's a great picture, though, isn't it? It's a fabulous picture.
It was that's the perfect encapsulation of the sort of royal obsession and the celebrity culture. I think that really sums it up. And also, John Travolta later said, which I love, he said he'd actually hit a lull with job offers at that point. And he said that picture was actually what resurrected his career, and he went on to have many, many other roles after that. So he was very grateful for a number of reasons.
Well, we described what an icon she was in the 80s, but can you imagine what it'd be like now with TikTok, Instagram, everybody having a camera? I mean, reality TV shows. How big would Diana be, you know, now?
It's incredible to think that this was all before the age of social media, because so much of William and Catherine's popularity with the younger generation is because a lot of their moments go viral on TikTok, and they've actually, as a separate note, harnessed that quite well. So, but it's amazing because that really boosts their profile, and this was all prior to that. There is this, exactly as Ingrid said, this obsession with her. You can only imagine what it would have been like today if she was around.
But this was a defining moment, I think. She became a sort of global superstar. There she is with a Hollywood actor. So it was the combination of the Hollywood and royalty, and it just sort of spun out of control. Also, Clint Eastwood was there. So, and we had
everyone was there. Alan Shepard, the first astronaut, was there. Everybody was wanting to be there for that do. I mean, it was an incredible event.
Well, let's talk about family. Let's go to Highgrove in July 1986. Now, I look at this picture and it really does look to me, I see similarities in what Catherine and William do these days, but not so Harry and Meghan, because clearly we can see their faces and we know that Harry and Meghan do not like to show the face of their children. But what does this picture tell you, Arthur? I mean, it's home life. It's a happy family of four. I think we knew at this time that maybe life wasn't that happy for everybody, but what does this picture tell you, Arthur?
Well, I mean, the photographer who took that, Tim Graham, is a really dear friend of mine, and he told me that whole session, he did lots of stuff on that he said they were just comfortable with each other. The Prince was making the children laugh in different situations. They're very involved in it, and I reckon, it's just a lovely picture. Now, I don't think you can't keep making this sort of stuff up and saying, there's tensions in the marriage. I suppose every marriage has a few problems, but you get over it, don't you? And you get on with your life, and that's what they're doing.
Were they good parents, Ingrid, do you think?
I think that they were great parents. Diana was a wonderful mother, we know that. Charles was involved as he could be, but when the marriage got into tensions, Diana did use the children as a bit of a weapon. So Charles would say he wanted to take them to play polo, and Diana would say, well, I'm actually taking them to Tetbury shopping. So it was difficult.
That must have caused friction between all four of them, I suppose.
It did, of course. The children were not aware of it, and also if there was any shouting and screaming, which a lot was going on at Highgrove at this time, the children were whisked away. There was nannies, there were personal protection officers. They didn't really witness their parents screaming at each other until much later. And a lot of this we know from Diana herself.
Were they a united family at this point? Were they putting on this photograph of a united foursome? Were they united?
Not according to Diana. Because she always said that after Harry's birth, the love in their marriage had completely gone. So, I mean, what I'm saying is it's really according to her that we know all this.
Yeah, well... Okay.
Arthur doesn't agree.
No, it's that picture tells you a lot of things about them. Don't tell them that they're unhappy. And the kids are happy. Obviously, Prince Charles took the kids to the opera, taught them about the opera and Shakespeare, but it was Diana took them to McDonald's and to the pictures and down to down and see the poor people suffering, living on the streets. She was the one that showed them that. So I think they had a great mixture.
They had quite a good balance.
Yeah,
right.
I think so.
There was that touch that she gave. We'll get onto that actually, because I want to talk about the ski holidays. I know that's not a common touch, but she did like to take them or give them normal as possible holidays. So here's them on a ski lift. I mean, I'm led to believe that was quite fashionable in the 80s, guys. Is that accurate?
That is peak 80s.
What, ski lifts or
the
ski
ski outfits and the glasses and the all-in-one outfit. But she was keen, as Arthur just pointed out there, to try and give them a normal life. She would take them skiing. It'd be a big family event, wouldn't it?
Yeah, I was there when they learnt to ski. Harry was skiing with him 5 minutes and William was crying. I remember the headline of the paper, Willie the Wimp. But I mean, this was a great event every year. They'd go and they'd have a great time, and of course the King was there as well. I mean, he's just not in that picture, but it was a terrific place, Cloisters. It was a small town in Switzerland, and it was a very smart place, and they loved the royals coming there. They even named one of the ski lifts after the Prince of Wales. It was that popular. And they loved it, and they loved skiing, and Harry was a very good skier. I mean, he didn't stop, he just went for it every time. I remember the instructor grabbing him because he thought he could try and slow him down because he was just crazy about it.
It was on one of these ski trips. I know it wasn't this one, it was a few years on, but to the point about Diana really protecting these holidays as much as she could, there's that video of her telling the press to back off. She said, I'm trying to have this, I'm paraphrasing obviously, I'm trying to have a holiday with my boys. And that's what this reminded me of as well, because you have to imagine in these moments they think, well, we've given you some, you've had this, and now leave us alone. And I think, again, we've seen that with the way that William and Harry framed their own family holidays.
They do. I mean, there are no pictures of William and Catherine with their children. Now, when I was young, believe it or not, I was young. My mum took me to Thorpe Park, and do you know why? Genuinely, is because of the photographs of the happy family trips that they took to Thorpe Park. I'm led to believe that the first trip that they went to Thorpe Park kind of went under the radar. People heard about it. Is this right? And then the second or third trip, the photographers learned about it, and they all raced down. And as soon as the pictures were taken, as soon as they were published, ticket sales to Thorpe Park just absolutely rocketed.
That's one of my favourite photos of Diana ever. Look at the way she's got her nose scrunched up in that way. That's such a natural, endearing laugh. She's having the best time ever, and it's, sorry, just on that specific photo. But I can imagine it would be very good for tourism for Thorpe Park.
Yeah, I mean, you can't get a better ad than that,
That's
can you?
the best one. Yeah,
it was amazing. Those pictures were just wonderful.
Yeah.
Did you, that was obviously a picture of her with Harry. Did she treat the two children differently?
Well, they were both on that trip, on that thing. Oh yeah, definitely. I mean, I went to Disneyland with them, and they, with the kids, and she got pictures with them on the rides there. I mean, she was, as you say, giving them a normal life.
Was she
And
aware?
she was a great mother. She was a really she
yeah.
was very equal with her love to them.
Was she?
And obviously they had very different personalities.
Was she aware that one was the heir, one was ultimately going to call himself the spare?
Very much so. That's why she wanted to bring Harry in on everything, because she felt that perhaps other senior members of the royal family, like the Queen Mother, for instance, would always just talk to William and not to Harry. And Diana was very concerned that Harry shouldn't be left out. But then, of course, Harry used to say to William, well, you're the heir, I'm the spare, I can do what I like.
Well, since he talks about the emotional trauma of losing his mother at a young age, but about his childhood and his relationship with his mother. I mean, just talking about Harry specifically, do you think he had a good upbringing with Diana? Do you think that he enjoyed his childhood?
Oh, absolutely. They had a fairly magical childhood. I mean, they, as Arthur said, they were harassed, but they had a wonderful childhood with her.
Oh, they had everything. They had trampolines, they had electric bikes, they had the best kid. They had a tree house at Highgrove. I promise you, it was the best you've ever seen. It was fantastic. They had everything they wanted. They were just, and they played with each other all the time. They grew up together. They went in the army together. They learned to fly together. They did everything together. They skied together. They were great
And they used to do very mischievous things, like put water bombs over the door, so that when it opened, water poured onto someone.
That's a classic, by the way.
Yeah.
Incredible move. I do, when Harry spoke about his childhood, obviously a lot in Spare, Diana is known as being this wonderful mother, of course, but the way he spoke about his father, I thought, there's a tenderness there where, when you picture the King Charles as he now is, but back then when he was Prince Charles and his mother came back from those weeks-long trips away, and there's the handshake to little Charles, and you picture that upbringing, and then throughout Harry's book, I really got the sense that you get this feeling that Charles did his very best with a very different emotional background than what Diana had, and perhaps that is a great balance that they had, the two of them together in that. The marriage wasn't a perfect fit, but you do get the sense that Charles really did try, but he was
very close to Harry, Charles. And Harry loved soldiers and the uniforms, the combat uniforms, and Charles did take Harry on some of his trips. You must have been there.
Yeah, he did it to South Africa.
Yeah.
And he used to call him my darling boy. That's what he called him, my darling boy.
No, I'm glad you're talking about Charles and Diana, or bringing Charles into the conversation, because the Thorpe Park picture was taken in 1992. Now, look, spoiler alert, guys, the relationship was not great. I'm sure you are fully aware. And he's talking about the Taj Mahal photo. So this was taken in 1992. Arthur, she sat there alone Was she sending a deliberate message, or was this some kind of accidental photos just posing in front of the Taj Mahal?
This was an act. I'll tell you why. Because before we went to the Red Fort, before we went to the Taj Mahal, Diana went to the Red Fort, and because everybody was obsessed with the Taj Mahal, everybody rushed to the Taj Mahal to set them. But I, the only photographer, went to the Red Fort, and we're at the top of the Red Fort, and in the background is the Taj Mahal, and she. "Where do you want me, Arthur?" she said, and she posed up, and she was laughing and joking and happy. And I got a cab, I got to the Taj Mahal, she come there, and she sits there, and then she goes right up to the very end there, sits all there on her own, and then she walks back, and Simon McCoy for Sky News said, how was it? She said, "Oh, very healing." And he said, "What do you mean by that?" And she said, "Work it out for yourself." But I'm still trying to work it out myself, because it was such a strange thing. Now, everybody thought, because the Prince had gone off with some British industrialists. Well, he
was on another engagement.
No, he went on with these British industrialists, were signing contracts. It was a plane ride up, I think Bangalore they went, but we knew about that because we had it in the paper 2 weeks before that he was not going to be there. But why it was strange, because when I went there with Charles in 1980, we asked him, because they'd just been seeing Princess Diana, and I remember saying to him then, "You know, we really like Lady Diana Spencer. We like a lady, she's lovely." He said these words to me. He said, "You could live with a girl for 2 years." He said, "I can't, or you'll be the first to criticise." I don't know why he said that, but we always thought, because this Taj Mahal is a temple of love. It was built by a man in the love of his wife. It's a kind of mausoleum, and so we naturally expected them to come here together. But obviously, you don't know about that year '92. You know, the kiss that missed at the polo match. I mean, it was incredibly embarrassing for the King, or for Prince Charles then, and so the whole thing was. This when we realised that the marriage was.
Did you know the marriage was over at this point?
I didn't know it was over. No, I never thought it was ever going to be over. I thought we were going through a bad period. I mean, when she turned her head when he went to kiss her, that was. I'll never forget it. And if you were in that pen, I promise you, Matt. You never had your camera to the eye when that happened. You couldn't have got your camera to the eye. The pressure in there was incredible, and the crowd was really hysterical. And I mean, the police had them big sticks, you know, beating the people back. It was hot, and it was unbelievable. And it just happened, and she did that, and that was I think it was a really nasty thing to do, actually.
Ingrid, this is very symbolic, as Arthur's just explained there in depth, but. The media and the world, we weren't told that the marriage was on the rocks.
Oh no, we certainly wouldn't have been told. I mean, we didn't really start writing about it until 1987, I think it was, which is when Diana and Charles went to the floods. There was been some terrible floods in Wales, and they came separately, and that sort of confirmed what we'd all thought, you know, that this marriage was seriously on the rocks.
Korea was the marriage that was ended. When we went to Korea, they didn't want to even talk to each other.
That was later, wasn't it?
Oh, yeah, terrible. Yeah.
Can we compare this at all, Bronte? Just bringing it forward. Do you remember like this photograph here? Like Meghan famously said in South Africa, you know, that nobody's asked if I'm okay. Are there any similarities there?
I think that Diana was a masterclass in strategic photos. We saw all the way through. She could send out very powerful messages, both through her clothes, but also, as we're seeing here, just by sitting there. And I think that absolutely her daughters-in-law, but particularly Meghan, have learnt from that along the way. And I think there absolutely has been something that's been noted and used along the way. I think Meghan has seen this and the power that it had, and it is something that she's used as well as they've gone through that tour. When she made those comments, that was a huge moment. I still remember the shock I felt when I read those quotes that she'd gone ahead and said that, and it was a huge turning point, as we now know, in their breakdown of relationship with the British royal family, but also the British press. So. Yes, very symbolic and very important.
Interesting, Bryony, sorry to interrupt you, that what you were telling me earlier about Meghan, how Diana was a natural. She just had a natural love of things and life and people. Not her husband, perhaps, but you were saying that Meghan positions herself for every photograph, which is something that Diana didn't do, did she, Arthur?
No, she didn't need to. I mean, if she turned up with a sack over her, she looked great. I mean, she was always looking great. And she, I mean, I can remember going to the polo once and thumbing through Hello magazine to sort of see what pictures are in it. You know, she knew she was a fashion icon as well, and she was very interested in all that. But this picture, I've never worked this out to this day. They call that the Diana seat now. And when we went back with Catherine and William, we wanted them to sit on it. William was a bit worried about it, but they eventually did. The only difference is there was scaffolding all around the Taj Mahal. It looked terrible.
And that they were sitting together, thankfully.
Yeah,
together.
I was going to say the crucial difference is that they were together.
Yeah.
Bronte, Arthur was just talking there about Diana being a bit of a fashion icon and everything that she wears. What is a revenge dress? And I'm talking about this photograph from June 1994.
This is when we speak about the legacy and the way that, you know, people for generations, even after Diana's sadly passed, think about her. This dress, this photo is always one that comes up top of mind. So this was obviously the same night, I believe, that Charles revealed that he had had an affair with Camilla Parker Bowles. Now, this dress, so a revenge dress, is when, in Diana's case and now ongoing, is when you step out in front of the world and send a strong message that you are above whatever slight has just happened to you. In this case, this dress, obviously, you've never seen a royal dress like this before. She looks incredible, but we've got the dress is above the knee, we have the shoulders on display, a bit of cleavage there with the neckline. But she'd had that dress for 3 years. And she had a different dress planned to wear that evening.
Valentino it was.
And yes, and she could have stayed home that night, and she could have avoided watching the interview. She could have stayed at home. She could have just stayed away from the public eye. But instead, she sent such a strong message in dressing exactly like that, pulling that dress out of the wardrobe and stepping out for this very high-profile event. And looking like that, and that's the revenge dress. That's sending the message that I don't care, I'm above this. And she was angry.
So if I'm right on this, you can correct me if I'm wrong, this was the same night that Charles had gone onto television and admitted that
what it was, he'd
adultery.
given an interview to Jonathan Dimbleby.
And he'd admitted that he'd committed adultery.
And he said, when my marriage had irretrievably broken down. And then, people forget he put that in it as well. But this dress, I remember Serpentine, this Hyde Park this was, and I got there at 6 o'clock in the morning. By 8 o'clock, there was 50 photographers there. This was such an important thing. And the next day, all the papers carried the story about Charles. Everybody carried this picture, the revenge dress, yeah.
My point being is that...
I mean, I want to tell you about this. Normally when they arrived at an event, they get out the car and walk in the door. She held the car back 100 yards and walked towards us wearing that dress. The stockings, the shoes, everything was just stunning, yeah.
But that night, Charles's interview did go out. We were at a special screening. So the world did know about it, and Diana knew it was happening. So it was all sort of timed very strategically.
Yeah, she was comparing herself on the front pages there. You've got that image, and then you have this confession on the other side.
However, and I know this is about, you know, the legacy of Diana. To be fair to Charles, they both had affairs, right?
Oh yeah, she did too. Yeah. She had a few. Yeah. I mean, the thing is, I'm talking about Bronte about that dress. Valentino put a press release out about that dress as well that she was going to wear, and so the reporters wrote about it. Of course, it was the wrong.
And so it's very last minute, yes, to change it. But I love that. I love the thought of her just in her wardrobe going, "This is the one for tonight."
Well, she was irritated that Valentino Valentino's office put out a press release. So she thought, "Stuff that! I'm going to wear something else."
Here it is.
Oh, she didn't like that. No, that was good. But I'll never forget that because it was about 8 o'clock at night and the sun was setting and her hair was all aglow and it's a wonderful picture, that.
Yes, it is.
Never forget it.
Now, Diana obviously liked the limelight, and as we've just explained there, you know, she'd often wear certain dresses when needed to make a statement. If we move on to the children, how happy do you think she was for, or how aware she was of Harry and William being thrust into the limelight? Because we've already spoken about William being in her arms outside the Lindo wing, but also, as we see here, we see photographs of William's first school at Eton. We later see William, when he took his children to Ladbrokes, we later see that, you know, he was happy to bring his children, bring the cameras down to see his children at school. But how do you think that she actually laid out the groundwork so that William and Harry were prepared for photographers to watch their life?
Well, the thing about this picture was that that was the last picture we took of William while he was at school. And Harry, we didn't bother him once when they were at Eton, never went anywhere near the place. So I think that's why William's looking happy, because he knew that he wouldn't be seeing us for about 5 years.
But I think that the boys were Diana's life,
Yeah,
and she did everything she could to protect them. And Harry later went on to Eton, although he might have been better off at some different type of school. But she felt that if Harry didn't go to Eton, everyone would say he was stupid, because he was actually dyslexic, or he is dyslexic. So I think he found Eton quite difficult, not on the sporting side because he was brilliant, but just on the actual educational side.
But I mean, he went to Sandhurst and almost became the cadet of the year. That's how, when he was something he wanted to do, he was very excited about it. So when he got going in life, he did very well, I thought.
Was Diana clever?
She wasn't really interested in education, but she was very sharp and very witty and really understood people in a way that you couldn't teach. It just came naturally to
She
her.
was a fantastic lady, lady.
But and the fact that she didn't have any O-levels and things, she used to joke about it. And I think Charles found that a bit difficult, that she was so disinterested in education. But later, of course, she then became really interested in religion and all other kind of things. It just didn't happen to her in the beginning of her life. It happened much later.
Well, let's move on to our final photo. I think we're calling it really her final holiday with the boys. Looking at it now, it's actually incredibly sad.
So
she's
sad.
on holiday here with Harry and William. Silly question, but do you think the boys will look back fondly on these pictures or on this holiday that they spent in the Med in 1997?
No.
Well, I went
I'm
on this
sorry.
trip as well. I went on this trip as well, and Diana came over to our. Well, there was the villa where they were staying in Saint-Tropez, and there was a English photographer was on that boat, French photographer was on that boat, German photographer was on that boat, and she came over to our boat and said, "Why are you here? William's a basket case. They can't cope with it. He wants me to go and live in America because." And I said to him, "Well, look, I'll ring the editor. We'll go home. I don't want you to do that." I said, "What do you want to do?" She said, "Well, when are you going now?" I said, "Well, we'll go when you go." And well, sure. But I said, "We can always ring and ask if you want to return." She wasn't having any of it. And then she went back, dived into the ocean, swam over to where Harry was, got on the back of his jet ski, and roared round our boat 3 times, giving us great pictures. I've never worked that out.
This was obviously after.
That's a wonderful story.
This is it. This is
That's
the
really
picture.
interesting.
Yeah, this is what
Yeah.
happened. I got these pictures. They're roaring around the bay, and Harry was loving it. William was, as he was miserable about it all because it was a bit unfair for them on holiday. And she asked us not to take any pictures, and nobody did. And then I say she went back, went to the thing, dived into the ocean, swam away, went over to William, put the lifesaver on, and roared round the boat. And I promise you, 3 times. So you had more pictures you knew what to do with, and that was it. And then I think we pulled out the next day. Which is
This was before Dodie, because he wasn't around on.
He wasn't there. He
This
wasn't there on this holiday, Dodie. No, but all this kit,
I mean, Mohammed Fayed bought a yacht to impress Diana.
Oh,
Wish my friends would buy a yacht to impress me.
Yeah.
But more importantly as well, exactly as you said, Matt, this is the final holiday. These are the last moments. And I look at her and I think that's a woman that, as it's so interesting hearing that about the stress, how stressed she was and sort of back and forth and what she wanted with the press. But she's also a woman that's just in her prime. And it's so sad now. It's tragic, obviously, looking at these photos and Harry's face and thinking about the way his life, particularly he and William's lives, changed so dramatically, obviously, from that moment onwards. It completely reshaped it. He lost his innocence of childhood, going through a grief like that. And so having these final holiday pictures, it's sort of that last burst of joy and innocence for them, I suppose.
We've forgotten a really important point, Arthur. Back in England, Charles was preparing this massive 50th birthday party for Camilla. And Diana was determined that she wasn't going to have Camilla on the front pages. She was going to be on the front pages. So that was another element of her sort of wanting to be photographed, but not wanting to be photographed.
well, I've never worked that day out. Like I never worked out the Taj Mahal out. This woman, you think you know what she was thinking, and you completely got it wrong. When I was at the Red Fort with her, she was happy, laughing. Where do you want me, Arthur? Pictures. Go 5 minutes, 10 minutes later, we're sitting there. She's looking all lonely and miserable. She was an actress in many ways, but that day she come over to our boat, literally, as she left, she was almost in tears with frustration. One of the reporters was giving her a bad time, and she got really, really upset. So, and then she went and did all this on the jet ski, it was just incredible. I never worked it out. I never worked that woman out totally any time, and I'd worked with her for 17 and a half years.
Well, that's part of her charm, I suppose, wasn't it? That
It's a fascination, isn't it? That's why we're still talking about her.
Did we ever work her out? Did we ever fully understand?
I don't
Diana?
think
It just makes her sound so human. Those stories are so interesting, Arthur. I just think she has this enduring legacy of all the amazing work she did, and she did, but she was also a human being, and it's fascinating because she was multi-layered, and I don't think anyone really does fully understand her, like so many people.
Now we're talking about the fact that she would have been 65 years old if she was still alive. Trying to put that into our brains and trying to work out, what she would be like now. What do you think she would have thought of Harry, and what do you think she would have thought of William?
Harry always says that his move to the US, and it's clear that so much of it was fueled by what he thought his mother would have wanted, or what she would have done herself if she had the ability to do so. He's spoken so much about all these major life decisions being so significantly shaped by the loss of his mother and also what he thought his mother wanted for him. So it's very hard to know. Again, we've just said she's so hard to understand as a person. It's difficult to know because Harry and William are on such different tracks. But I firmly believe that both of them are behaving and they're living their life in accordance with how they were raised and how Diana shaped them. But interestingly, it's put them on such different tracks. So
Diana actually wanted to go and live in America because she thought she would get away from the paparazzi, and then she realised that she couldn't go and do that because she thought that the palace would take the boys from her. They wouldn't have done, but she thought the establishment would stop her from seeing the boys if she lived in America.
They would have stopped him. They would have stopped her taking the boys away like that. I mean, he was going to be the king one day.
But they wouldn't have stopped her going.
They would have stopped her taking the children with her.
Yes, permanently.
Yeah, permanently. Permanently. Oh, yeah.
Ingrid, do you think that they would have that she would have wanted Harry to move to the US the way he did?
I think she might have been proud of Harry for doing that. Because she knew that Harry wanted to get away. He was only 12 when she died, but he was different, and he was a free spirit, and she never thought he'd be a problem. Well, she was
surely
wrong
she wouldn't have been proud of Harry leaving William. She wouldn't have been happy with the fact that they no longer talk.
Absolutely not.
Well, she wouldn't have had it.
She would have hated that.
She wouldn't have. She'd have got them together. She'd knocked their heads together. She wouldn't have put up with that.
But I think she would
definitely would have put up with that.
I think she would have been proud of Harry for following his heart, because Harry never really intended to go and live in America, did he? No. He just wanted his own way with the royal family.
Would Megxit have happened if Diana was still alive?
I do believe, exactly as Arthur just said, I've often thought this. If Diana was around, I think that she was the best chance of keeping I know they had their issues, but I think she was the best chance of getting them to reconcile or to stop things getting to how bad they've gotten. So I think Megxit could have looked very different. Perhaps he still would have moved to the US, but not in the fractious way that it's happened.
Yeah. They didn't have problems, Bronte, till Meghan came along. Before that, they were close. I remember Harry doing an interview saying his main role in life was to support his brother. And I remember him saying that, and I know he genuinely meant it. And I went with them when they went to Lesotho, the two brothers, where they played football together, where they rode horses together. They were very close. So something happened. Something severely happened. I don't think we're ever going to find out, but that made them that split, and that I think is going to take some sorting out, because I think if it ever happens, I'll be amazed. But there's something drastic happened there. I don't know what it was.
Can we finish on a happy note?
Sure.
What is I'm going to put you on a spot. What is your favourite memory or photograph of Princess Diana?
So many iconic photos. It's so hard to pick.
I'm putting the Thorpe Park one. That's what I'm saying. I thought that seeing her with Harry and seeing her at Thorpe Park, I think, was my favourite photograph. I'm sorry if you didn't take that one, Arthur. I do apologise.
That's all right,
I should have chosen one of yours.
That's
so many
of
my favourite ones are.
Matt, I don't mind. I mean, I did loads of them, and I'm very proud of it. And I really enjoyed the whole time I worked with her. She was an amazing lady. She's full of surprises. She was fun. She cracked jokes with you. She cared. I mean, I remember writing to her once for the tombola. She sent me money for that. She was a fantastic lady. She was different. She broke the mould, and she single-handedly took out the stigma out of HIV by going to the hospitals, cuddling the HIV babies in Sao Paulo, and she the landmines that last year of her life. I mean, I went with her to Bosnia. I went with her to Angola, and this woman was being criticised for it, but she almost single-handedly got landmines banned in many, many countries. So this woman, in spite of the fact that she wasn't the brightest spark in school, and she had a bad marriage, She was an incredible person. And when she, after even she lost her title, HRH, and she went somewhere, 30 of us got on the plane with her because she was just magic. And she never let you down. She always come good for you. So just, any of those pictures, I just loved her. I was so sad when I cried when she died, yeah.
My favourite is Diana kneeling with a child, because her kneeling with a child or a sick person is what made her different from the rest of the royal family. And I just have that in my mind, and she's kneeling down and holding this child's hand. And that's how I like to think of Diana, kneeling down with children.
We see a lot of that now with Catherine.
And we see a lot of that with Catherine.
And now, Bronte?
Okay, I've had time to think about it. I do love the Thorpe Park pictures, as I said, because that's her most natural smile and face, and she just looks completely joyous with the kids. But also that John Travolta one. I remember the first time I saw that as well, and she just looks like completely class. It is all celebrity, it's all royal. That dress is absolutely gorgeous, and that's just really sums up the Diana effect on the world as well. I think that's but there are so many to pick from, many of which are Arthur's.
There was but that John Travolta picture I think is great too. I'd have killed to take that picture. That was a fantastic picture.
You took a lot of really great ones.
But that was the one I really, I begged Nancy Reagan's office for that. No way.
And your answer's Thorpe Park? Is that?
I think it's going to have to be Thorpe Park.
That's a good one.
Yeah. All right. Well, thanks, guys. I really appreciate that. I appreciate all the stories, and I'm, I think I've learned a lot as well. So thanks for everyone's input. Right. Well, I really enjoyed that, and I hope you enjoyed it too. So thanks very much for watching, and also thanks to my guests, Ingrid Stewart, Arthur Edwards, and Bronte Coy.